the previous section, we talked about specifically what would happen during the lockdown period and what our options are with our staffing during this time. And we looked at a few options regarding that. Please have a look at that recording to get some more information. What we'd like to do in this section is just to continue with what actually happens in part 2. In other words, what happens in the intermittent phase or the recovery phase when the doors have opened up again and we need to go back to work. So what are our options of how to deal with the situation that might come up and how we can communicate with our staff during the time. Louis, if you'd like to pick up where you left off previously, we can basically just continue from there. Thank you.
All right, no problem. I think where we left last time is at the situation relating to short time. Now, this is after the lockdown has been lifted. Okay, once the lockdown is lifted, just to recap again, there's options that the employer also has as far as that is concerned. Obviously, all the employees will arrive back at work because they have not been paid, or they have been paid, or they only had partial salaries. Let's take it as though the lockdown will stop at the end of April and everybody comes back on the day after Workers' Day or the Monday, because the Workers' Day is on a Saturday. So I think so, yes.
Yeah.
So everybody arrives back at work on Monday. Everything continues normal, but but there's all of a sudden there's not enough work for everybody to do what they need to do. Your patients needs to phone you, they need to make appointments to come, and everybody's sitting around and waiting for something to happen. I would not go right from the beginning just to say, right, please, all my employees come into the office, we are going to start talking about short time, because let's just settle into the place one day or whatever, so that at least people can settle down, and then that everybody can see, listen, this is not the same as it was before the lockdown. Things have slowed down quite drastically, and everybody cannot be kept occupied as they should be. Then there's an option in order for them to be put on short time. On short time is reduced working hours. That can be done, but it should be done after consultation with the employees, relating or explaining to them the situation, and then basically to come to a conclusion as far as the decision that you need to make in order to put them on short time. Obviously, they will not receive the same remuneration that they would have received had they worked full time, and all those circumstances will then be thrashed out between yourself as the captain of the ship, as I spoke about previously, and your team working together with you. One thing that is important, I think I did mention this in the previous round, is that you don't put all the employees employed by the practice into one basket and then apply short time throughout with all employees. Short time needs to be done in terms of positions that people are employed inside the organization or inside the practice. As for instance, as I think I've explained previously, you've got 2 receptionists, but only 1 chair assistant and an oral hygienist. You can't put the oral hygienist on short time because the book is full, but you don't need two receptionists. I'm just taking this as an example, please.
Yeah.
You don't need 2 receptionists for the first 2 weeks. Then you can put them on a rotation basis on short time, reduced working hours, trying to that both of them have equal opportunity to earn an equal amount of hours or whatever, or equal amount of, as close as possible to an equal amount of remuneration per day. Put them all on half day. One works from 8 o'clock till 1 o'clock, and the other one starts from 2 o'clock until 4 o'clock, or whatever the hours are that you work. Try to find a way in order to balance it off, that they all get the same benefits from short time rotation. Okay,
that makes sense.
As far as that is concerned.
This obviously is the scenario if after a few days of work, a week or so, we experience that there's a huge lull in the business and we're definitely not continuing the way we were. And this is because of the circumstances that were brought upon us, not by our doing, but what's happened globally and obviously to the economy itself.
That's correct. Yes. All right. Now you get into another scenario. Let's say, for instance, after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I think a week is a bit too short because businesses are going to be different. I don't know. So I think the dental practice, the dental fraternity will most probably pick up and go back to where they were over a period of time. So I think the main thing that the employers in the dental industry needs to think about is the implementation of short time. However, there is the option of an employer, for instance, wanting to reduce his staff. He's got too many employees working for him. And this is not based on him or her, and this is obviously not based on what the employee has done wrong. It's got nothing to do with the way or the manner in which the employee works. It's got to do with the need of the employer in relation to the number of employees in the positions that they employ. That's the only consideration. Nothing else is considered. Purely the numbers of receptionists. You only need one. You don't need two. So now you need to think about what you're going to do with the overload in that position. Then a person starts thinking and contemplating, as the law says, in possibilities of a retrenchment. Now, in order for me to explain to you the process of retrenchment is going to be pretty tricky, but I will go through it very quickly so that you can just understand the background, because it is a process that needs to be done, that a person needs to approach very carefully. I think the most important thing, Jean and Corne, is you cannot retrench people based on those that you like and those that you don't like, those who are working well and those who are not working well, those who have disciplinary records and those who don't have disciplinary records, those that stay far and those that stay close. That is not the way in which you determine who may be losing their jobs based on operational requirements. Now, operational requirements in terms of the law, the name for a retrenchment is a termination of employment based on operational requirements of the employer. And operational requirements in terms of the law is defined into three categories. First of all, economic. Secondly, technological. And thirdly, it's economic, and the third one is the structural reason, structural. The structure, just in short, the structural reason is, everybody knows what an organogram is. An organogram, if you don't, it's that picture on the wall that makes a picture of your organization. Now, they consist of blocks and there's names written in those blocks. Structural change will take place if any one of those blocks are crossed out, or either the number of people inside a block is reduced. Then there's a structural reason and a rationale for a possible retrenchment. Technological means you buy a machine that can do the work of 10 people, and you retrench 10 people because you don't need them anymore. That's technological. And economic means that you don't have to pay the salary of that person anymore should that person no longer be employed by you. Now, I want to give you something, a little bit of a secret here. Never, ever say that you cannot afford. This is a secret between myself and all the dental people listening to me now. One of the things to stay away from is that you cannot afford.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Because then you're opening the wide path that everybody wants to see your books. Because whatever you claim, you need to show.
Yeah.
Now you need to prove
Which could
to me
be quite easy in this period, though.
All right, stay away from I cannot afford.
Yeah.
I'm very serious that this is because you will find people that they will take you to the bargaining councils or the CCMA and say, but he can afford it. He makes R1 million a day. How can he not afford my salary of 15,000 Rand a day? All right. So so don't ever use the fact that you cannot afford an employee to work for you. There's a need. There's a need. You've got too many employees. All right. The economic rationale behind it is that you don't have to pay the employee that salary anymore. Okay. Yeah. And therefore, you start. If any one of those four possibilities are there, you've got a substantive reason for termination of employment for reasons based on the practice's operational requirements. Okay. Any questions as far as that is concerned?
No, that makes complete sense. I mean, if I understand you correctly, that we just need to be very careful in the way that we word things, and that's also, it's been a big lesson for me, is to word things correctly. And as you very well said, that, you know, talking about retrenchment, we don't really have enough time to go into all the detail of that. But I appreciate the fact that you're basically telling us we need to get counsel. We need advice from a labor consultant like yourself, or from a labor lawyer, if that is something that we are considering.
Yeah. Absolutely. I am not trying to sell myself in this, but you need help when it comes to that. To retrenchments is a very dangerous ground to walk on if you don't know exactly what you're doing.
Okay.
All right. So this is very, very important. And basically, it's a consultation process between yourself and the employees, or either those or the representatives of the employees. And then there's certain documentation to draw up. If you are wanting to go and see what the whole process entails, you can go and read Section 189 of the Labor Relations Act. Section 189. There's documentation to be prepared. All these type of things needs to be done, and there's consultations that needs to be done with either the representatives of the employees who may be affected, and also maybe with the employees directly who may be affected. Yes. You never decide. Yeah, it's a very technical thing that you need to know what you say, because if you put your foot in it, it's very difficult to get your foot out of it. And I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm trying to. Yeah. This is the reality that I face every day. Is trying to fix something that went wrong is much easier to do it right from the beginning.
Yes, makes sense.
It's very important that we understand that the reason we're talking about retrenchment is because dismissal is not an option.
Retrenchment in other words, is one of the ways of dismissal.
Yeah, but you can't open your doors on the 1st of May and say, well, I'm going to now dismiss 4 of my staff members because I can't pay them anymore. There's a process that you need to follow to be able to do that. And that's
absolutely.
That's why retrenchment is the discussion, because you literally can't just close the door and say, well, you don't work here anymore. That is unfair dismissal, and then you will be taken to the CCMA.
Absolutely, and you'll lose your case. And you'll pay compensation of a maximum of 1 year's service, of 1 year's salary.
Exactly. So the process to follow, if you do decide that it's not feasible for you for that employment, or the structure of your business need to change because of the financial impact, you have to go the route of retrenchment, and then that in itself has financial implications, because retrenchment isn't just we negotiated today and it ends today and off you go. There is a period. What are the basic rules regarding the financial implications of retrenchment?
Well, basically, when it comes to retrenchment, and this only applies to retrenchment, and that is in terms of Section 41 of the Basic Conditions of Employment Act, is that the minimum that an employer must pay an employee who is retrenched is 1 week for every completed year of continuous service. That is the severance pay. That's the minimum. 1 week
So 1
for
week every year.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
But that only applies when it comes to retrenchment. That does not apply when persons are dismissed for misconduct or for poor work performance or incapacity. That doesn't apply.
No, fair enough. But in our current situation, what we're saying is you can't turn around on Monday morning and say, well, you're dismissed because of poor work performance, because you need to have had a whole process.
Processes.
So it's not an option. So for me, the view is that retrenchment is a short-term, is not even a short-term solution to your financial position, because in the end, if an employer has worked for you for 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, you're still going to be paying them 6 or 8 weeks worth of salary. So it's still going to cost you the 2 months. So it's actually better for you to rather negotiate with your staff and say, look, we're going to go and try and work on skeleton staff on short-term pay for a longer period of time, but at least we don't have to retrench and restructure the business. If I'm reading you correctly, am I? Obviously,
Jean,
it changes. But
Jean, two things. Your short time is there's a temporary lapse in the business coming in.
Yeah.
Retrenchment is not for a temporary lapse. Retrenchment is a long-term thing. It's not short-term.
Yeah.
Please, you must also understand that is also an option, but hopefully that doesn't happen, because layoff is also must happen on a rotation and so forth. When it's the same as layoff, short, same, but layoff people don't come to work at all. Rotation basis. Layoff is where people don't come to work for 3 weeks.
Okay. That's kind of what we have now.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So you're just extending what you have now. So it's a temporary layoff.
Yes.
So we're going to continue on Monday, but we're only going to have 5 people working. The other 5 are all going to be still temporary laid off for however long we decide.
That depends on what positions they are in.
Yeah. That comes down to negotiation. Or
that comes down to discussion
with the business talking about it.
Yes, correct. Those are discussions between yourself and the employees who may be affected, and so forth and so forth. But I want to confuse the issue. Layoff, short-term, retrenchment. Different scenarios, different processes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just to wrap.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to quickly, just to summarize what we've said. I think it's so easy to get lost in this, and for my own sake, I just want to quickly repeat what I heard. We're looking at this from a point of view that we see that what we're going through at the moment is not a permanent thing. So we are all hoping for the best, that it's gonna get better at some stage, which means that the temporary solutions that are open to us are the temporary layoff, or the short time or reduced working hours, even after lockdown. That's still solutions that we can look at, or options. And that is something that we have to really have a very clear discussion with our staff. So communication here is the key thing. Planning this properly and really structuring your practice in a way that you know what you need, who you need to function every day, and who you can maybe put in a structure in a way that you don't have to get those guys in every single day, specifically in bigger practices where you might have more than one person doing the same thing. Then the unfortunate thing that we spoke about is retrenchment, which is something that we hope we will not have to do, but that is a permanent thing. And you can't go back.
Yes.
Once you've gone to that point, you can't go back. And if we get to that point, then it really is it's at a very low point already. So I think that we're all hoping that we can find solutions within the temporary time and building up our practices again. And just
Yes.
and also I think it's really important to add here that while we're talking about our employees and about our team members, and my heart really goes out to these people, and I truly care about them. I truly, truly care, and I think everyone feels the same way. We cannot be unfair towards our staff during this time. I think when you go through a crisis, the worst comes out in some people, but I think that that's a true test of character to do these things fairly, not to try and cut corners, and not to try and get away with stuff. It's also, on the other side, important to keep the business running. So if you want to be fair on the one hand, and you want to make sure that everyone gets the same opportunities and you treat everyone the same way, but if there's no business at the end, then no one has a job. So making these harsh decisions is so important, because we want to give these people food on their tables again when all of this is over. So I think it's very, very important to say that, not to just, jump in and start making harsh decisions hastily. Louis, do you want to maybe add something still from your side, some advice that you can give?
Yes. Corne, I'm very scared with regards to having spoken about retrenchments. That is not something you should take on without gloves on.
Thank you for saying that.
I'm not talking about boxing gloves. I'm talking about you need to know what you do. So rather stay away from that and get people in to help you that know what they're doing, or else it just becomes a shambles, and you are creating a very, very bad atmosphere inside the practice, which you will take long to get rid of if
Understood.
you do it wrongly. Okay.
Perfect.
The other thing, which I want you to underline what you are saying, Corne, and this is something which I would love. Maybe I don't know whether this is getting close to the end of this discussion, but there's a big difference between being right and being fair. Your biggest emphasis in the labor relations or the employment relationship is to try to be fair. It's very easy to be right. One thing that I always say to managers, Corne and Jacques, is if you are making decisions as the owner of a company, think with your head and not your heart. Emotions can guide you in a wrong direction. I think that all the employees that have been working together with one another over a period of 15 years, because there's many practices that have done that. The same team for 15 years, they love one another thoroughly. But when these harsh decisions needs to be made, you need to make these decisions with an open mind in order to protect everybody inside the company. And sometimes people need to be sacrificed in order to protect all the rest. And this is hard decisions. It's not easy, but that's the way it actually works. And when you start thinking about things like that, you have to be able to know what the proper processes is in order to come to the point where you're not defaulted at the CCMA. I cannot prevent you from being taken to the CCMA, but one thing I can do is to prevent you from being defaulted when it's being contested. And that's my job. This is what I do for the past 24 years, and this is what I'm trying to do to the best of my abilities. And I love what I do. I love helping people, and this is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing.
What is the best way to get in contact with you if people want to ask for your services?
Well, my lifeline is my cell phone. My cell phone number is 082 44 74 360. I'm on WhatsApp. I can meet with people on Skype. I can meet with people on Zoom as today. And my email address is IRSERV. It's WC. IR Services Western Cape, but it's shortened IRSERVWC @mweb.co.za.
So we will make that available as well. We'll just put that in the notes when we describe the video. We'll do that.
100%.
Will be on the video, yeah.
And yes, that's 100%. And I'm going nowhere for the time of lockdown.
You sure you're not running away anyway?
No, it's fine, 100%.
Thank you, guys.